So last week, I was on a mastermind with the Southeast region, and the gentleman who was leading it, his name is Brett Caldwell. Brett's a friend of mine and is actually somebody that's going to owe Josh Anderson $1,000 in like 2 years because he made a really stupid bet with Josh. But Brett showed this graph right here, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. This is from page 14 in Shift. And I've brought this up before. I think it's worth mentioning again. And if you notice, it actually tracks two things. So the first one is available income. The second one is the number of agents. Now, this is like something you could look at in the macro, like the whole real estate market, or the micro, which is your real estate market. Available income is really measured through closed units. Okay, so the available income in a market is measured through the number of units that are ultimately closed. Now, remember, every listing actually represents 2 units because there is a seller and a buyer. But if you notice, the available income or closed units is going to dictate the number of agents in said market. So as the available income goes up, so will the number of agents, but there's always this lag, right? Because word spreads, the real estate market is hot. And so there's just this little gap of time where the number of agents will lag behind the closed units. But eventually what happens in all markets is it peaks and then it starts to come down. And then the number of agents will follow. But again, we have this lag period. And the question that Brett asked everyone, and this is for those of you who would be willing to come off mute and have a little bit of a discussion with me, I would invite you to do so. But what he asked was, where do you think we are? Where do you think we are? So in this cycle, where are we right now? Or at least, where do you think your market is? So who wants to be the brave one, take themselves off mute and answer that question? And just understand, I live in long, awkward silences. It doesn't bother me. It's not uncomfortable for me. So we'll sit here.
I think we're on the downhill trend of available sales or closed units, and the agents are lagging on exiting the market. We are seeing some market exit here in Minnesota, but I think there's more to come.
All right. Thank you, John. So would you say that that's like right here? Would you say we're more here? Where would like?
I think right where the line is, kind of somewhere in
right
that
there?
area. We're just, we started seeing an exodus this year, and we saw another exodus when license renewal. So I think we'll have a bigger fallout, when we have the big renewal at the end of the year.
Okay. So John thinks that we're right here. Let's get one more person and see if you agree, disagree. Again, your market may be different, but give me one more person and tell me where you think that we are. Meg said, Tony said, I agree with John for Tampa, same or slightly above that line. Okay, cool. And Meg is in Chicago, which obviously those are 2 really big markets. I think we're actually closer to here. And here's why. There is a production leaving of the market, and then there is an official leaving of the market. The production leaving of the market is where the agents have largely just stopped working. They have given up, but to John's point, most major markets renew at the end of the year. Which, if you think about it, and you're on the board of realtors and your job is to keep membership high, you should actually make membership renew in June, because it would make the people who have money, like it would make it much easier. But I've long since given up on boards operating off of common sense. But I think we're down here, you guys. I think we're right here, that a lot of people have productively stopped or have left the business, but have not made it official. And we will see it be made official at the end of the year. And so what that means is, if you look in this circle And maybe John and Tony and Meg are right. We could still be in this survive circle, but I think we're quickly starting to get into that point, and it may be January or February of next year where we bust right into the thrive. Now, here's part of the reason why, outside of just the agents leaving the market, is that if you guys are paying attention to what's happening with inflation, Gary covered this in his last mastermind, which is not this last Friday, but the Friday before. And according to Gary, inflation is now lower than it was, or as low as it was in April of 2021. So it got up over 7. And the numbers that I've seen as of lately for when they reported for June, Gary only reported out through May, is that inflation is now under 4%. And 2% is where historically inflation has been. And I think where, the government ultimately wants it to be, even though like most of us want it to be at 0, 2% is kind of the line that we're looking for. So unless something happens, which it very well could be, it seems like this inflation is starting to get under control. And once that gets under control, then what they're going to do is they're going to drop rates. Now, I don't know when that's going to happen. I will tell you one thing, though, and this is just a personal belief of mine. I do not believe that Democrats are going to go into a presidential election year with high interest rates. If they do, it's not going to be for very long, because politically in a presidential election year, that's going to largely hand the election to the opposing party. So I do think that regardless of where inflation is, we are going to see rates come down. But I would be encouraging you all to be tracking and monitoring that number, because that's something that, as the public continues to talk about where inflation is, that you can be that kind of local economist of choice and sharing with them inflation's now lower than it's been in the last 2.5, almost, well, I guess just over 2 years. So this is something that I would encourage you guys to be paying attention to, especially at the end of the year. I think it was Laura Rabis shared with me this last week too, that in her local board, there are 2,400 licensed agents. She went in and looked at, just through the month of June, how many of them have done 4 or more transactions. And I want to say that number was like 950, somewhere in the 900s. So there are 1,600 agents in her market that have done less than 4 deals this year. So this is a really good opportunity for all of us to be really focusing, building our pipelines. If you're a rainmaker, understand you've got about a 3 to 4 month recruiting window right now that has not been open for the last 5 years, that will close around November. And so if you're looking at building your team, you want to grow by team members. I know that right now, adding agents is something that has been more of a conversation than ever, as the Team Bridge model has shown up. Right now is recruiting season. Now, another thing that I wanted to share with you, and this is something that has really, really shocked me. And if I can just talk candidly to a lot of you, the reason that this shocks me is because I cannot believe that we have been in a shifted market as long as we have, and how many of you have not read the Shift book. I just do not understand that. I don't get it. And you can tell me you're not a reader, Audible. You can tell me you don't have time, you're in your car. But the fact that you are not fluent in the language of a shift baffles me. I don't understand it. You make your life so much harder than it actually has to be. And Rainmakers, I'm talking to you too. But this right here is something that I absolutely can't believe, because I will talk to people, and it doesn't matter how long they've been in the business, I have not had one get it right. And I ask them, what's the difference between being ready, willing, and able? Because I believe, especially for those of you that are working buyers, if you're not paying attention to this, you are wasting your time. Ready, willing, and able. Readiness is all about personal reasons. It's the why. Why are they looking to move, right? Now, here's the thing, is that all moves are going to originate from one of two places: vitamins and aspirins. So vitamins are life-enhancing moves. Life-enhancing moves. We're getting married. She's pregnant. Got the job. Buying our dream home. Those are life-enhancing moves, vitamin moves. The other side of that are aspirin moves. Aspirin are pain ending, death, debt, divorce. Unfortunately, right now, we're going to see a little bit more of an aspirin market for a time, because there isn't a huge incentive for a lot of sellers to put their houses on the market, especially the trade up ones, unless they paid cash. And so I would imagine that a lot of the people that you see from the listing side entering the market, it's going to be more for aspirin reasons. And yet we've got to really understand the ready, willing, or the readiness part of this. And what I used to share with people when I taught these classes was, do you understand the compelling reason why they are looking to make a move? Do you absolutely understand that? Now, willingness is simply knowing and being willing to play by the market expectations. So if we're talking about a buyer, for example, right, and they say to you, oh man, every time I've bought a home, we've always got it for $25,000 off. Awesome. Well, in this market, you're not going to buy a home. You're going to get taught a lesson. Because regardless of how you shake it, we're still in like 1.5 to 2 months of inventory, which last time I checked is a strong seller's market. And so anytime somebody says that to you, they may have personal reasons, but their willingness isn't showing up. And I would encourage you to either put that person at the back of your pipeline and kind of check in on them a little bit, or just kick them out completely. Now, able, this is the easiest one. Do they have access to capital? How are they going to fund it? And if you notice, the way that this stacks up is the people that are the most ready, the ones with the biggest reasons why, are typically the most willing and are ones that are most able. The thing that I want many of you to understand is that it relates to your own goals, your own visions, the things that you're after. This plays out the exact same way. So for those of you that are most ready, you have the biggest personal reasons to succeed in this market, you become most willing and you become most able. So this doesn't just apply inside of the world of real estate. This is something that's kind of universal to the behavior of people. But I really can't encourage you anymore, especially those of you that are working with buyers, to truly understand these things and to take the time to make sure that the people you're putting in your car check all 3 boxes. Now, how you do that is through the 6 connecting questions. Again, this is on page 95 in Shift. Who are they? What do they want? Where do they want it? Why do they want it? When do they want it? And how do they plan to get it? Honestly, if I were verifying or interrogating each and every one of your pipelines, you should be able to answer most of these questions about the people on that list. And if you can't, then what that tells me is that you're not qualifying at the highest level, that you need to take these 6 questions and get really good. Maybe go back a few Monday Morning Mojos and listen to the one where we talked about the sales cycle and writing questions around it. But these are the questions that you want to have answered for every single person that you're working with, especially on the buyer side. Now, the last thing I'll share with you is this right here. And I'll never forget, back in the day, I interviewed Jen Davis. This was way before she was the VP of Maps. It was even before she was the CEO of the Holt Homes Group. She was a buyer specialist at that point. And, you know, she was selling over 200 buyers a year. And I asked her, I said, what do you think is the difference between your buyer consultation and the buyer consultation of most people working with buyers? And she said this. Now, she didn't say it exactly, but this is what she meant. And she said, I spend 80% of my time talking about their motivation and 20% talking about criteria. Criteria, think about like bedroom, bath, area, that type of thing. She said, I spend most of my time right here. And then once I fully understand that, then I'm going to move into criteria. What most agents do is they spend about 20% on motivation and 80% on criteria. I think it's similar to how we approach our goals too. I think that people are very flippant in the way that they select their goals and goal set. But if we just stick to the context of buyers, this is what many of you are doing wrong. You're spending way too much time here, and you should be spending a lot more time here. And by doing so, as we continue to navigate the rest of this market, as we continue to move into a new year, we'll see the agent count bottom out, and then we'll see closed units or ideally available income start to come up. Then you are really setting yourself up to win. So just to recap here today, I think we're probably down around in here. We could even be down around in here. I don't know, but I think you guys are right. We're somewhere in here. You have to understand what ready, willing, and able means. You do that through the 6 connecting questions. And when you're doing your consultations, 80% motivation, 20% criteria, not the opposite. So thank you all for being here today. I hope that this is something that is helpful to you. We will not have Monday Morning Mojo next week, so we'll be back in 2 weeks. If you need something, feel free to reach out to me. Otherwise, I will talk to you all very, very soon. Bye-bye.